Welcome into our overtime segment, brought to you by our good friends at Jinx Logos. There's the number for you to call. Trust me, I've dealt with these companies that produce coffee mugs, that produce baseball caps, that produce any kind of handout items you want to have for your clients or clothing that you want to have your sales team in. I've never dealt with anybody better than Jinx Logos. I have no problem in the world saying call them and you will be happy. Trust me on that personally. All right, overtime segment today. Nick Saban this week reiterated something he said a number of times before. He's in favor of the biggest 65 schools or so, basically the Power 5 conferences, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC. Now, the AAC, the All-American Conference, the old Big East, they say they want to be a part of this too, but let's just say it's the Power 5 for now. Nick Saban says all those 65 or so schools should just play each other, cut everybody else out. You play 12 games, and they're all against the big-time schools. Do you like that idea? Because that would mean no more UT Memphis games in football. That would mean, unless the AAC got in, but no Rutgers, no Cincinnati, no Army, no Navy, no Air Force, no BYU, no Boise State, no directional schools. Are you good with playing 12 games against the Power 5 schools?
I like going that direction, but I still like having one that you can schedule on your own. I can see saying 11 of them, yeah, we're playing each other, but you can leave one opening to where you do have that freedom if you want.
And I'm kind of with Chuck. I'd even refine it a little bit more, though. When it comes to the military schools, they would be exempt. I mean, you should be able to have the schools, Army, Navy, Air Force. I think there ought to be a way that they stay in the Big 65 or Big 5, even if they're not Power 5, excuse me. BYU has been a big time school for a long time. Boise's worked its way in. I think it would need some chiseling, but I think it's going in the right direction.
But what does that do with the independents, like Notre Dame?
Well, BYU's an independent; they're doomed.
But Notre Dame's just considered.
Notre Dame would get in because they're partnered, sort of, kind of, with the ACC,
right? And
they're Notre Dame.
The best case scenario, I agree with Chuck, would be 11 because you'd have that exception for those types of schools. But 12 would be much better than the current situation now. And what it'd have to do, what would have to happen, is the Power 5 would have to have more unity in their scheduling. They'd have to have their conference schedules at the same time, and then you'd have your non-conference early in the week. So therefore, the whole pool is available for you to schedule.
Yeah. See, I think you'd almost have to go to one office, one command center that would be in charge of handing you your schedule. Because I don't know if you're talking about only 65 teams and everybody's got 12 games to play and there's only 13 weeks to play them or 14 weeks to play them, and you got to have a certain number of home games, certain number of road games. That's limiting. So I think that's a problem. Scheduling would be a problem with it. Though I like the idea, scheduling would be a problem with it. The other thing it does, if you go to that, if you thought the last battle of realignment was big, you were going to have so many of those schools, the Boise States, the BYUs, the Notre Dames, well, Notre Dame's in, but Cincinnati, Rutgers, they're all going to be fighting to get somewhere in that boat that goes to the next level. I just think that's where you get into the super conference. And that's why I said 65 to 80 teams.
Right.
Because if you try to do this with 65, I think you're just going to uncork the bottle and everything's going to spill on out.
Well, and then one thing that you automatically do, I think, when you go to that, is your playoffs are going to have to be expanded. You got 4 teams, which we hadn't even seen yet, but you go to this, and I think you've got to go to at least 8 teams, and I think you probably have to go more, so it'll be palatable. So 2 losses doesn't possibly kill you.
But see, since everybody's playing, I would almost argue the opposite, because everyone's going to be playing comparable schedules in this. So you could say that you don't need as many because everybody's schedules are more similar.
Are you going to keep the bowl games alive?
I'm not doing this. This is just happened.
No, it is. I want to know what you're going to do.
Well, Nick said you would, because right now the bowl games are all going to be rejiggered this year for the most part, where it's all Power 5 versus Power 5 for the most part, and all of the underlings play in their own bowls.
And if this is going to work, it's a job for Mike Slav. That would be the perfect person to be the coordinator, the commissioner, the scheduling guru. That's the guy that could make it work.
I think he's going to light a Cuban, sip his Blantons, and smile and let somebody else worry about something like that.
And John, what about the fans? I mean, Saban's talked about it. They're the ones that get talked about the least. You talk about games that fans would want to see. You have a better chance for that. And then the TV networks, which are really the most important thing that they're looking after, they're going to cash in too on quality inventory all the time. I think it'd be a good move.
Now, the other side, though, is a school like Mississippi State. You go to that, I don't know if they're going to be going to bowls. You know, you can scratch out the 6-6 because we beat the University of Hawaii in a volcano. San Juan University is not going to be going to Starkville. So you're going to have some schools. The bottom level of that 65 are going to be feeling like the directional schools do now in the FBS.
You know what you tell Mississippi State? Man up. You tell them to man up. This is the way it is. You know.
All right. Man up, Mississippi
Man
State.
up.
All right. Thanks to these guys. By the way, Bob, show me your shirt. Jinx Logos. Jinx Logos did that shirt. Jinx Logos. They also did his hair. All right. And that's a good. It's the it was an airplane or the Top Gun. Where you have the Hot Shots. That's the movie I was going for.
Shots.
All right. We just sit around and ramble when the cameras aren't on. See you next week on the Sports Source.